This video will show you how to add fractions with sums between 1 and 2. One of the first big ideas we want to look at is estimating solutions. I know that if I have a rectangle and I split it into thirds, that 1/3 is less than 1/2. I can do the same thing with fourths, and if I have that split into fourths, I know that 1/4 is less than 1/2. So 1/3 plus 1/4 must be less than 1/2. But what about 1/2 plus 3/4? That's a different problem. If I have 1/2 plus 3/4, I know that 1/2 is equal to 1/2, and that 3/4 in my other rectangle, random space there, 3/4 is greater than 1/2. So if I were to add 1/2 plus 3/4, it is greater than 1. So I need to keep that in mind as I'm adding these, because then I will know that I need to do more than one rectangle to find it and to find a solution. So let's look at 1/2 plus 3/4 a little bit more. I already remember from the last lesson that I need to split this first rectangle in half and then split this rectangle into 3/4. And when I do my next rectangle, I'm going to split it in half vertically and then 3/4 horizontally. Now remember that for 3/4 in this, what I really am going to be doing is making two rectangles like you can see here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade in 1/2 on the first rectangle, and I'm going to shade in 3/4 on the next rectangle. And if I count it up, in the first rectangle, I have 4/8 that I am adding to 6/8. And I got that by counting the squares on the inside, or the smaller rectangles. And I know that since I have common denominators, I can do 4/8 plus 6/8, which is 10/8. Now that's not a simplified answer. The easiest way that I would simplify this is to say, what is 10 divided by 8? Or how many times does 10 go into 8? I know, or 8 into 10. I know that 8 goes into 10 once, and I have 2 pieces left over, so I must have 2/8. What I'm really doing there is I am taking these 2 sections here on my first rectangle and using those to fill in the other remaining 2 empty slots there, so that I have 1 whole on this side and 2/8 on this side. And that's how I simplified it. Try this next problem on 4/5 plus 1/2. Don't forget to estimate first. Remember that 4/5 I'm estimating to be greater than 1/2. And 1/2 is 1/2. So I'm going to say that my sum is going to be greater than 1. So I'm going to need to draw at least 2 rectangles. And to do that, we're going to start up at the top. I split this into 4/5 and the second rectangle into 1/2. And when I combine that, I find that I have 10 sections. Now in 4/5, I find that I have 8 of those 10 sections, or 8/10, filled in. And I'm adding 1/2, which is 5 of those 10 sections. And if I have 8/10 plus 5/10, I find that I have 13/10. Now, if I were to do the same thing that I did last time, and I moved these 2 sections over to the first rectangle, I know that I have 1 whole with 1, 2, 3/10 remaining, which is my simplified solution. And what this here is called is not just a simplified solution, that's a mixed number, where I have a whole number with a fraction following it. And as often as possible, you want to make sure that you're writing a simplified fraction and a mixed number. Do not just leave it as 13/10. That is incomplete. Let's try one more problem. 2/3 plus 3/5. Once again, we're going to estimate 2/3 is greater than 1/2 and 3/5 is greater than 1/2. So we know we're going to need at least 2 rectangles. Again, I'm going to start with my rectangles. I'm going to have my 2/3 plus 3/5. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge my lines. And what I'm doing is I now have these split into 15ths. Okay, you notice that if I have my denominators, 3 and 5, and multiply them together, that's going to be one way that I can check to make sure that I have the right number of pieces. And in this first rectangle, if I count up the smaller rectangles, or the different pieces, I find that I have 10 shaded out of 15, which is the same as 2/3. And then I am adding 3/5, and again counting the total number of smaller rectangles. I have 9 out of 15. So 10/15 plus 9/15 is 19/15, which I can simplify. And I wanted to show you another way to do this. Okay, and I'm going to cross off each section as I move it over. So I'm moving this section. Okay. And then what I'll be able to do is count my simplification, or simplified value. So I have 1 whole, and I have 1, 2, you can't really see that, different color. I have 1, 2, 3, 4/15 left. So 2/3 plus 3/5 is 1 and 4/15. Again, the way I look at it is 15 goes into 19 once, and 19 minus 15 is 4. So I have 4 pieces left.